You know what? If they misunderstand you, let them. If they take you for granted, let them. If they underestimate you, let them. If they shut you out, let them. If they judge you, let them. If they doubt you, let them. Just let them. Because how other people perceive us, how they choose to see us through their own scope, firstly, is not within our control, and secondly, does not decide who we are. It does not determine our truth or our fate, we do. And as long as we focus on what truly matters in this stage of our lives, which is our mind, body, and spirit, what is within, not external forces, not external circumstances or people. If we shift our focus to what is within, then what else? If we have a healthy mind, body, and spirit, what else? Then let the world crash around us like porcelain promises dropped from careless hands. Let the noise outside drown in its own chaos, because we are building symphonies within. And yet, oh, how lonely it is to bloom in a garden no one visits, to shine so fiercely only to find the room is empty, applause echoing off walls that forgot your name. But keep blooming anyway, even if no one brings you water, even if they forget to look, even if they say, "You've changed," as if evolution was ever a crime, because they never saw the nights you spent unraveling your own knots just to make sure no one else tripped over them. They weren't there when you stitched up your own scars with trembling fingers, whispering apologies to the very wounds that taught you how to survive. You didn't break, no, you broke open. You let light in where the world tried to plant shadows, and still, they called you dramatic for bleeding poetry instead of silence. Let them. Let them think you're too much, too sensitive, too complex. Let them say, you always take things too personally, while you choke on the weight of words they never meant to throw, but hurled anyway, like you were a wall, like your heart was a dartboard, like your silence was permission. Let them, because you are not here to be understood by those who refuse to listen. Some people will only love you in pieces. They will romanticize your resilience and resent your rage. They'll trace your laugh lines and ignore your tear tracks. They'll say, "I love your energy," until you ask for some in return. And then they'll vanish like dreams at dawn, leaving only the cold side of the pillow and the playlist you can't listen to anymore. Let them. Let the door hit them gently on the way out, like the closing chapter of a story you outgrew, because you were never made to fit into the frames others painted for you. You were born to spill out of every box, to ruin every mold, to be too vast for small minds and too soft for hard hearts. And yet, there will be nights where you'll beg the stars for softness. Nights where you'll curse your own strength because you're tired of being the one who always holds it all together while falling apart behind closed doors. Nights where even your own reflection feels like a stranger, asking questions you're too afraid to answer. But breathe. Even when your lungs feel like they're filling with grief instead of air, breathe, because there is something holy about surviving when everything inside you is begging you to stop. There is something sacred about staying soft in a world that treats tenderness like weakness. There is something defiant about continuing to love when your heart has been turned into battlefield rubble. Let the world spin off its axis. Let people leave without warning. Let love go unreturned. You are still worthy, even in your unraveling, especially in your unraveling. They won't see it. Most won't. They'll watch you dance through fire and only ask why you're sweating. They'll watch you carry the weight of your past on a tightrope and critique your balance. They'll say, "You've changed," as if they ever took the time to know who you were. Let them, because you will rise. Not like the sun, predictable and on schedule. No, you will rise like the moon, quietly, mysteriously, always in phases and always returning no matter how many times the sky forgets your name. You are not here to convince anyone of your worth. You are here to be raw, relentless, real. You are here to turn your pain into power and your story into sanctuary. You are here to wear your heartbreak like armor and still somehow sing lullabies to the pieces that broke. And when the weight of it all feels too much, when the silence feels like screaming and the light at the end of the tunnel feels more like a train, sit with it. Let the ache sit beside you. Pour it tea. Ask it what it came to teach you, because the ache, cruel as it may be, always knows the way home. And sometimes healing isn't fireworks. Sometimes healing is crawling. It's whispering, Maybe I can try again tomorrow, with a voice so cracked it sounds like goodbye. But still, it's not. It's never goodbye. It's always, always begin again. So let them misread your silence. Let them say you're distant, cold, aloof. Let them never understand how much it cost you to say nothing. Let them never know how loud your mind gets when your heart is quiet. Let them talk about you like they've lived a single day behind your ribs. Because your soul was never meant to be an open book for people who only skim for the drama. You, my dear, are poetry, and not everyone is literate. So when they walk away, mid-chapter, mid-sentence, mid-heartbeat, let them. Let them leave with their half-finished versions of you, tucked into back pockets like old receipts, disposable, forgettable, barely read, because those who only come for the highlights will never survive your depths. They don't know what it took to build a soul that still sings after being shattered. They don't know about the nights you held yourself like a secret, or the mornings you stitched your spirit together with trembling hands and coffee-stained courage. They just see the smile, the laugh that hides 1,000 almosts, the steady hands that once trembled over goodbye texts never sent, the eyes that carry too many goodbyes and still dare to look at life like it might be kind. Let them keep their shallow versions. Let them gossip over watered down fragments of your fire. They were never meant to witness your full blaze, because you are made of grief and glitter, of rage and roses, of silence and symphonies that only the wounded can hear. You are made of stories too vast for mouths too small, and the people who deserve you, they won't flinch when you show them the storm. They'll lean in, they'll bring umbrellas, they'll ask if you want to dance in it. So hold on, even when your hands feel more like memories than flesh, even when your hope feels more like habit than belief, even when love feels like a foreign language your heart no longer speaks fluently. Hold on, because somewhere, someone is learning the alphabet of your ache. Somewhere, someone is rewriting the definition of enough and putting your name beside it. And maybe you won't meet them tomorrow, or next week, or even in this lifetime, but you will meet you, the you who forgave instead of hardened, the you who kept loving even when every reason said stop, the you who chose softness again and again like a revolution. Let that be enough. Let it be enough that you stayed kind. Let it be enough that you stayed. And if ever you feel like a burden for bleeding too loudly, for loving too deeply, for needing too much, remember, the ocean never apologizes for its depth, and neither should you. Some will only bring cups when you need oceans. Let them. Let them drown in their own inability to hold you. You were never meant to shrink to be understood. You were meant to expand, to echo, to be too much. Because too much is just a phrase that empty use to measure what they can't contain. And you are the storm they pretended not to hear coming, the earthquake they blamed on bad timing, the comet they tried to call a falling star, but you never fell, you blazed, and still some will ask why you burn. Let them live in a world of dimmers. You were never meant for dull. You were born for floodlights, for full moons, for forest fires of feeling. And yes, it hurts. Yes, some days your skin will feel too thin to carry this soul. Yes, you will cry over people who sleep just fine, knowing they left your heart in ruins. But don't close. Don't become them. Let your tenderness offend the broken. Let your vulnerability be the rebellion. Let your tears baptize the ground they never deserve to walk on. Because this is your garden now, and no one gets to trample it just because they don't know how to grow. Water yourself. Talk to your wounds like they're old friends. Tell your shadow it's okay to follow, but not to lead. And if today your light flickers, just flicker. If your voice shakes, let it shake. If your heart feels like glass, don't apologize for being transparent. This world is desperate for people who feel, who show up messy, open, alive. This world is desperate for you. So let them call you fragile. Let them mistake your softness for weakness. Let them write your eulogy while you're still learning how to live. You'll resurrect yourself so many times, they'll start to call it magic. But you'll know it was just love. Love for a self they never stayed long enough to understand. And when you finally rise, not to prove them wrong, not to win them back, but simply because your spirit is made of resurrection, don't look back. let them. Let them choke on the silence you leave behind. Let them trace the outline of your absence and call it mystery. Let them whisper your name in rooms they once denied you entry, because you were never just a moment in their story. You were the plot twist they couldn't comprehend, the chapter they weren't brave enough to finish. Let them sit with the weight of almost. Let them sip on the bitter tea of could have beens. Let them romanticize you in hindsight. They always do, don't they? Suddenly, you're poetry after they've wrinkled your pages. Suddenly, you're a dream after they've slept through your presence. Let them. You don't need to be remembered by those who forgot how to hold you. Because you remember every time you chose peace when you could have chosen vengeance. You remember every word you swallowed, every scream you buried beneath your breath. You remember the nights you wanted to disappear and instead wrote yourself back into existence with shaky hands and tired metaphors. You remember, and that memory, that's your crown, that's your testament, that's your silent, roaring hell yes to a world that tried to teach you smallness. You loved without conditions. You stayed long after the room went cold. You broke yourself into puzzle pieces hoping someone would take the time to put you together. They didn't. Let them. Let them live their lives where love is a transaction and tenderness is a threat. Let them treat feelings like fragile china they refuse to use. Let them ghost you and then haunt their own minds with your laughter. Because there will be days, oh, there will be days, when your chest feels like a house with all the windows broken and your hope is just a ghost rattling the floorboards. But even then, you are more alive than they have ever dared to be. You feel it all, even the things they're too scared to name. You carry every ache like a badge, every scar like scripture. You've bled in silence more than most people have dared to whisper, and you're still here, still standing, still giving, still loving. So let them say you're too emotional, too intense, too everything they could never be. You're not too much, they're just too empty. And if ever your heart starts to wonder, was I really that hard to love? Stop. Remember how many parts of yourself you bent just to fit into their shrinking universe. Remember how many times you turned storms into lullabies just so they could sleep soundly beside your chaos. You were never hard to love. They were just incapable of seeing the galaxy in someone who refused to be a star in their small sky. Let them. Let them orbit dead suns. Let them drink from dry wells. Let them build homes in places you burned down to save yourself. Because you are a forest fire with a heartbeat, a love letter written in lightning. You are 1,000 sunrises they slept through and now only dream about. And when they realize what they lost, when they come back with hands full of maybe and mouths full of I didn't know, let them. Let them sit in the doorway of your peace and hear the echo of their own absence. Let them knock on the walls of your healing and realize they don't have the key anymore. Let them taste the bitterness of your silence and finally understand the sweetness of what they wasted. You don't have to hate them. You don't even have to forgive them. Just let them. Let them go. Let them wander. Let them grieve a version of you that only exists in their regrets. And you keep choosing yourself. You keep rising without needing to be pulled. You keep singing lullabies to your aching bones until they remember how to dance. Because this life, it was never about who stayed. It was always about how you stayed when no one else did. How you stayed soft when the world called it foolish. How you stayed true when every mirror tried to lie to you. So let them. Let them watch from the bleachers as you become everything they said you couldn't be. Let them scroll past your glow up with a heart that clenches in places they forgot existed. Let them name drop you in conversations they'll never be brave enough to have face to face. Let them feel it. Let them drown in the depth they once called too deep. Let them remember the warmth and ache in equal measure. Because you don't chase love anymore. You attract it with the gravity of someone who finally knows not everyone deserves a front row seat to your becoming. And that's okay. Let them. Let them wander through their new lives, polishing counterfeit smiles, convincing themselves they never needed your kind of love, the kind that peeled back layers, the kind that stayed when it hurt, the kind that knew how to see ghosts and still offered them a chair at the table. Let them decorate their denial. Let them build whole worlds on the foundation of your absence, pretending they didn't shiver in rooms you once filled with warmth, pretending they sleep soundly without the echo of your name in the silence. Because the truth is, you haunt them. Not like a ghost, not like something scary, but like a song that comes on at the wrong time and unravels them, like a smell in the air that feels like a memory, but they can't quite place it without tasting grief. They feel you in the quiet moments, when they're lying beside someone else and still feel alone, when they see someone laugh like you used to, when they hear your name and it punches the breath out of their chest like a secret they weren't ready to face. Let them. Let them carry that ache like a paper cut that never heals, small enough to hide, deep enough to sting every time they touch something that reminds them of you. Because you gave them something real, and real things don't fade just because someone's hands weren't steady enough to hold them. And maybe they'll say it was timing. Maybe they'll tell people it just didn't work out. They'll never say they broke something they didn't understand. They'll never say they ran because they saw how deeply they'd have to feel. They'll never admit that your love scared them, because it required them to show up as more than just a body. It asked them to be seen, to be honest, to be soft, and they weren't ready for that. So let them. Let them write their own revisionist history, cast you as too sensitive, too intense, too willing. Let them water down your memory until they can sip it without choking. Let them reduce you to a lesson. They'll call it growth, but you'll know it was fear. You'll know they didn't leave because you were too much. They left because they were too little, and I know it still hurts. Even when we know the truth, even when we remind ourselves that their love was never meant to last, it still aches when someone sees the most sacred parts of you and chooses the exit. It still crushes the ribs when you realize you would have bled for someone who wouldn't offer a bandage. But don't close. Don't turn to stone just because they couldn't love your fire. Don't wear your pain like armor and call it healing. Stay open, not for them, but for the version of you that believed, really, truly believed that love could save you. That love could build a home where your broken pieces felt safe. And maybe one day, someone will. Maybe they'll walk into your life without a map, but still know exactly where to find your softest places. They won't flinch, they won't run, they'll sit beside the mess, they'll hold your hand through the hurricane, they'll love you like a promise, not a project, but until then, you love you. You write poems in the mirror until your reflection starts to believe them. You show up for yourself like no one ever did. You mother your heart the way it always needed. You take your broken and build something that sings. Because darling, you are not what they left. You are what they'll spend the rest of their lives trying to find again. Let them. Let them scroll through pictures and pause a little too long on your smile. Let them see you bloom and pretend it doesn't burn. Let them lie to everyone but themselves. Because deep down, they'll know. They'll always know. You were the one they weren't ready for, the one they couldn't match, the one who saw them clearly and still chose to stay until they made staying impossible. Let them live with that. Let them carry it in the quiet. Let them mistake other bodies for your grace and wonder why it never feels the same. Let them spend their whole lives chasing ghosts with your fingerprints. Let them love shadows and wonder why they never feel warm. And you just keep becoming. Keep glowing, keep pouring into the cup of your own damn heart until it overflows with peace, because the right people won't need to be convinced. They'll know, they'll feel, and they'll never ask you to be less. They'll thank you for being more. They'll thank you with their presence, not their promises, with steady hands, not fleeting words, with eyes that don't just see you, but witness you. Every crack, every bloom, every aching, brilliant, chaotic part of you, and they won't make you earn love through pain. They won't ask you to prove your worth by bleeding quieter. They'll love you like it's instinct, like they've been searching lifetimes just to find the shape of your silence. But until then, love. Let the echoes be your choir. Let the ache write lullabies only your soul knows how to sing. Let your loneliness paint constellations across your ceiling until you remember that even stars need the dark to be seen. There will be nights when you ache so hard it hums, when your chest feels like a museum of everything you lost, and every breath is an exhibit you didn't consent to display. There will be days when the weight of what could have been is so loud, you'll forget how quiet your life has become without their noise. But even in the stillness, there is something sacred. In the quiet, you'll hear yourself again. In the absence, you'll meet the parts of you that were always drowned out by their shadow. And God, there's something breathtaking about rediscovering yourself. Something wild, something ancient, something that says, I've always been here, waiting for you to choose me. Choose them. Choose that version. The one who cried but didn't collapse. The one who got up again and again with salt-stung eyes and a spine made of old prayers. Because here's the truth they'll never say. You were the lesson they weren't brave enough to learn. You were the blessing they weren't soft enough to hold. You were the home they never thought they'd lose, until the walls caved in and you weren't there to hold up the roof anymore. Let them. Let them fumble their way through shallow connections, trying to mimic the depth you offered without effort. Let them kiss mouths that don't know how to speak life. Let them lie in beds that never feel like rest. And you rest. You rest in the knowing that you loved fully, that you showed up, that you were real, even when it cost you, even when it tore you apart, even when it left you on the bathroom floor, clutching your ribs like maybe love was something you imagined all along. You were love. You are love, even now, even after they forgot your birthday, but remembered your body, even after they said, I'll always be here, but left when the weather changed, even after they promised you forever and gave you a season. Let them. Let them live their lives with half hearts and almosts. Let them dance with people who never learned your rhythm. Let them fall asleep beside someone else and dream of you anyway, because one day they will remember, not in the way that brings them back, but in the way that haunts, the way certain sunsets will feel too familiar, the way certain songs will taste like your name, the way laughter in someone else's mouth won't sound quite as real. They'll remember the way you loved them. God, they'll ache remembering it. Because it was never shallow, it was oceanic, it was terrifying and healing and all-consuming, and they ran from it like cowards dressed as romantics. So let them. And you, don't you dare shrink, don't you dare dim, don't you dare erase any part of yourself just to fit back into a space you outgrew. You were never too much, they were just too unwilling, too unready, too unfamiliar with a love that didn't come with conditions or control. So go on. Love louder, live softer, speak your truth even when your voice shakes, and when someone finally comes along who recognizes your soul by the sound of your silence, who doesn't need you to prove your worth, because they see it like breath, like light, like gravity, you'll know. You'll know that the ache was worth it, that the breaking was birthing, that the letting go was making space for what was always meant to arrive. But until then, let them. Let them be the pages that burned. Let them be the ash you rose from. Let them be the reason you learned how to fly without feathers. Because this is your story now, and it's not a tragedy. It's a testament to your heart, to your healing, to the soft fire that refuses to go out. Let them, and keep becoming.